This video is a continuation of the last video where we talked about anti-maskers. And in this video, me and my friend named Debbie is talking about the racism and hate crimes against the Asian community. If you want to learn more, I left a bunch of links in the description, and I encourage you to watch the video all the way through. You may learn something.
Yeah, and actually, well, before we continue on, you were actually gonna talk, if you don't mind telling the story. You were talking about an incident where like your mom had to deal with racism for wearing a mask.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
So my mom's Chinese, and my mom was on Fraser Street at one of the markets shopping, and she had a mask on, and this was back in March. And my dad, who's a big Caucasian guy, was not with her. He was in the back of the store. And some guy just starts yelling at my mom and running towards her and saying that, you know, you insert racial expletive here, you and your coronavirus, your China flu, and all these things. And then he started to kind of come at her in a violent manner. And my mom just screamed, because I told her, I trained my mom well. If anybody ever tries to hurt you, just scream! Especially because you're at a store. So she screamed, and just as she screamed, my dad came out, and the guy saw my dad grab my mom and go, "Are you okay?" And the guy basically told my mom to a few more inappropriate things and then walked off. But had my dad not been there, I'm sure he would have at least shoved my mom, if not hit her.
I mean, that's definitely for sure. Like the sad truth is, in the last video, I posted a bunch of stories for incidents for hate crimes against Asian. Like there was like this old lady that happened, and like this incident happened in like Burnaby, I think, a few months back, where an old lady was like walking down the street, and some like random women literally just pushed her to the ground. I think she was putting away her groceries.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but you couldn't really see the face. But I mean, you don't really need to see the face when you can put two together.
Well, the thing that really frustrates me is if you go back and you look at all these videos, it's always Asian women. These people do not have the courage, I want to say something else, to pick on men. Like, pick on someone your own size. I dare you. Pick on me. I dare you. Right? Like, why are you picking on old... Like, my mom's 5 nothing, and she weighs maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. Like, you're going to pick on that person. Does that make you feel good about yourself? It's baffling to me. And I mean, there was the young girl that was punched in the face, right, for no reason.
Oh my God.
And these things are happening more and more. Like there's the one in Asia, or in the States, of course, in the States.
The States is like a war zone right now.
It's awful. It's like a group of 6 boys, and they shoved the woman into the river because she called them on their racism.
My God.
It's just disgusting. And yeah.
Like what's the scary part for like for someone like me who's hopping into and going into like a next generation or moving on to the future is that most likely I'm gonna have to deal with my own sort of racism, because probably most people are going probably racism is going to come after me. That's honestly the kind of hard truth about it.
Well,
So I don't think I explained that pretty well, but basically what I was trying to get at is that as someone who's about to leap into the world, who is about to move on to the next chapter of his life, who's part of the next generation, the hard truth about it is that I'm probably gonna have to deal with racism sooner or later in my life. Because in this world we all live in, there's just so many like old and broken systems. You know, there's so much hate and animosity. Just like sooner or later I'm gonna have to deal with it in some form. Like that's the honest hard truth about it. Like the problems of the current generations is just passing on to the next generation unless we do something about it.
I mean, okay. So I was born in the 80s, and I'm half Chinese and I'm half white. My whole childhood has been a struggle because my white side doesn't like my Asian side because I'm not white enough, and my Asian side always says I'm not Asian enough. And even in my group of friends, it was always like, well, you should hang out with the white kids and you should hang out with the Chinese kids, and I'd end up hanging out with no one. And I remember as a kid, like very vividly, laying in bed, I was probably like 9, and I'm not exaggerating. And I remember sitting there going like, maybe one day we halfies will rule the world. Like we mixed kids. Because at some point, and this is honestly how I felt, at some point, everybody's going to be mixed. Like there will be no Caucasians and Asians and blah. It'll be people. And that's what I thought as a kid. And I remember like, even in my 20s, I used to be so frustrated that racism still exists. Like, what is happening? And then now, I'm almost 40. Yeah, I'm almost 40. And I'm absolutely appalled at what's happening. Like, how are we moving backwards? How is me being mixed race back to being weird? Like, it's just bizarre to me. And it's heartbreaking to see that my mom is being targeted in Vancouver. You could possibly be targeted in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to go through, God knows if it's going to be a year or 2 years, of people referring to this as the god-awful Kung flu or the China flu. And it's like, why is this happening?
It's just so it's sad and like ridiculous that racism still exists in the world. Like, it should be a thing of the past, and it's like regarding the Chinese the Chinese
The China flu?
or like the Chinese viruses. That's what
Yeah.
I've heard more commonly. It's so ridiculous because I mean, like, I've actually heard a story where I'm not exactly sure what the 100% sense of, like, the details of the story, but apparently, so a Chinese restaurant was like slowly going out of business or something like that, and like a group of these, I think it was like white kids, I'm not exactly sure, were starting to leave. And like, I don't know how they got the phone numbers, but apparently the manager or owner of the store texted all the like the white kids and saying like, hey, none of our like waiters and employees have been to China. Please do come back. We've all been trying to do everything safely, and the kids just start laughing, which is just so sad that the owner has to plead with his own customers to come back.
But when you look at the leader of the free world, we all know who that is. I don't want to say his name because I don't like him.
Don't worry.
But like, he's enabling it. He's empowering it. And the more frustrating thing is that he's almost made it cool. Right? Like those two people that were waving guns during the protests, he now has them speaking at their convention.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So it's things like that you kind of take a step back and go, there's somebody who's making sure that the lines in the color are clear. And the fact that I'm going to say a little political here. The fact that no one's
By all
killed him,
means.
the fact that no one's killed him makes sense to me, because if you kill him, it's only going to make things worse.
Mm-hmm.
But from day one, I've been saying, hey, the guy is trying to start a civil war. And it's proof. Proof is in the pudding. You can see it. He's trying to start a civil war. And the entire world is essentially saying, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You're killing off your own country with two different methods at the same time. And you're blaming the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so mind-boggling that, well, who has all the money? Who has all the power? We know that. We know that these people only 50 years ago, 60 years ago, were still not allowed to go to the same washroom.
Oh my God.
Right? Segregation was only in the 50s. But the fact that what he ran on, make America great again, the fact that people didn't clue in what he meant was insane. It was clear in his campaign. He wants to make America white again. It shouldn't have said MAGA. It should have said MAWA. Make America white again. Because that's what he wanted. And that's what it seems like he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then whenever, he gets caught up in a moment where he's made too many oops moments, didn't touch my face, then he turns around and he'll, like, the first lady who was arrested for women's suffrage, he pardoned her to make himself look good and to win votes. But that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't change the fact that Black people are always going to be treated poorly, right? He's hopping on a microphone saying it's the Kung flu and don't go eat Chinese food, essentially. Like, he's doing everything he can to separate us.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the people jump on board, that the people who think that they're still better than us, like, let me tell you, my family's from Indiana, from the Midwest. Growing up there, I didn't live there. I spent a lot of time there. I was called an Indian. I was called several racial names. I was shot at because there was an Indian on their land. We were off-roading. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that's happened. And you sit there and you shake your head because it's like, you don't even know what my race is. But you still need to be racist. You still need to make comments, but you don't even know. You didn't even have the audacity to say, hey, you look different. Something. But to just assume. And then the flip side, James.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say what most people, always
Say whatever you want.
On the Asian side, we're just as racist within our own culture.
Mm-hmm.
So racism isn't just black and white. Racism is dark Asians and light Asians. For example, your Chinese versus your Filipinos. Or even your Chinese in buildings versus your Chinese that work in the rice paddies. There's so much racism that exists, and it's perpetuated by leaders. It's perpetuated by the media. And it's perpetuated by people who don't stop and think, believe it or not, Asians and white people, they can actually have babies. I'm a product. Which means we're the same species.
Mm-hmm.
Which at the end of the day doesn't matter. Like I said to my friends, when I go to the dog park, do you think my border collie looks at a Labradoodle and says, you're not a border collie, I'm not talking to you? No, my dog goes and sniffs his butt too. And what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you look different doesn't make you any different. If anything, it just adds more spice.
Mm-hmm.
Culture is good.
Definitely, and actually, you well, the main purpose of this video was to talk about racism, but you actually also brought up something that I was gonna ask you because we got off on a tangent.
I can talk forever. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry. It's perfectly fine. It's just gonna be a lot of work for me later.
I'm sorry, James.
It's fine. It's fine. That's the point of this video is to talk.
So I hope you guys liked this video. Honestly, I hope you found it informative, helpful, and also entertaining. Honestly, these conversations, I think, need to keep happening in order for racism to become a thing of the past. And I am going to be posting part 3 pretty soon, but if you want to go back and watch part 1, here it is right here. And this video is a video that YouTube recommends for you because they know you. And this right here is the subscribe button. Alright, remember guys, do what you love what you do. Peace.